We were trying to keep our relationship a secret until I got a divorce. Lynn wasn't making it too easy. Me and John were the world's champions at taking pills, and we didn't let on to the other that we knew. We never shared drugs. I can laugh about it now and say, hell, I knew he couldn't handle it, and he couldn't. I guess he felt the same way about me. I had a problem, and he had a problem, but we never made it a mutual problem. I'd started popping pills back in Salt Lake City. When you're young, you're bulletproof, and I thought nothing of staying up all night and singing and trying to write songs. John and I could never do that together. Two guys on amphetamines. We were just too scattered. We worked at cross purposes, trying to find a common axis. Strung out, lying to each other about what we were doing. It's a wonder we got along as well as we did. Now, I never liked downers. I was hyper as hell and was taking uppers on top of that. I never hit the ground for 21 years. I had incredible stamina. I prided myself in the fact that I could take more pills, stay up longer, sing more songs, screw more women than most anybody you ever met in your life. Now, I didn't know when to stop, and I didn't see any need to. I didn't know until later that they were addictive. I thought they were medicine. Playing 6 nights a week in Phoenix, I'd use the pills as an energy boost. You'd be tired, but you didn't know it. Later, when I got on the road, we'd have to drive 800 and 900 miles to the next show, and the next one after that, arriving just in time to put my clothes on and hit the stage. They seemed the only solution to get where you were going, and I was just trying to make it through the night, the day, and the following week. Almost everybody in Nashville took pills. When Roger Miller and I got to be close, it seemed like washing down a handful of pills was a natural part of life. He was the cleverest, craziest man I ever met. He never quit being funny. He could think faster than anyone and forget it quicker. I'd say a cliche, and he'd write a whole song around it. If I'd ask him to repeat it, he'd just shake his head and shrug and say, damned if I know what I just sang. He had briefcases full of pills, and we had as many names for them as they had colors. Roger took these things called Simcoes, so we called him Roger Simcoe. And they were what was known as over and under. One side was a tranquilizer, and the other side would be an amphetamine, and they also had vitamins in them. There were Johnny Whitecrosses and Waylon's Phoenix Flashes, speckled birds and little bitty desoxins, Desbital pancakes. Somebody would want to trade a couple of footballs for some red M&Ms. Pills were the artificial energy on which Nashville ran around the clock and then some. They were the drug of choice, and for a while it seemed like 80% of the people in town were comparing notes on who was taking which ones and what they were doing to them. Pill talk. In a way, they were the great leveler. You got any pills? That was a chain that drew Nashville's elite and aspiring together, the haves and the have-nots. And after the bars closed, we'd congregate at Sue Brewer's to share uppers and downers and guitars and songs. She called the place the Boar's Nest. It wasn't a club, but it was her apartment. And the best music to come out of Nashville was written right on her floor. Sue worked in a place called the Derby Club until 3 in the morning, and then she'd come home, set out the welcome sign. She'd stock the refrigerator, and every once in a while some of us would give her some money for beer and food. We'd sit on the couch and deal poker or talk about new things that we were working on, and maybe finish the song. Struggling songwriters would stop by like Chris Christopherson and Dallas Frazier. And though it was the unwritten law that you couldn't bug anybody, if you had a good song, you could sing it for Farron Young, George Jones, Mac Vickery, or Merle Kilgore. It was like a jungle telegraph. If I came in early in the morning and sang a song, somebody might be talking about it in the afternoon to so-and-so, and maybe they would give it a listen. A lot of good songs got pitched that way. The Boar's Nest was open well into the daylight, and sometimes, if she was taken with you, it could become a bed and breakfast. Finally, Sue would grab 3 or 4 hours sleep and get little Mikey off to school and head back to work. I was married to Barbara by now. After I got my formal divorce from Lynn, it was either get hitched or go our separate ways. Now, I wasn't ready for that. I loved her, and she loved me too. We thought marriage was a missing ingredient. and we added it to our already spicy relationship on October 22nd, 1967. She didn't stand a chance. Barbara was a good woman, but she got me at a point where I didn't trust women. She deserved a better shot than she got. We fought like cats and dogs. My drug use didn't help, and she didn't use drugs. None of my wives did. I'd be up all night roaming around, and she'd get disgusted and storm home. Then she'd get all torn apart, not knowing what I was doing and suspecting what I was up to. She didn't want to be in the hotels, and she couldn't take me on stage with all the girls around. Everywhere we went, there was a town full of females. That just drove her up a tree. She wanted me to settle down and be a husband. She never understood what made me keep going after the sound I heard in my head, and why I wanted to perform so bad, which meant she never really understood me. The first place I landed when I got to town was Harlan Howard's Wilderness Music. Now, the nights were when the wild ones hung out and roared. The daytime trips took care of most of the Music Row's business. I'd carry my guitar over to visit music publishers like Tree, where Roger Miller was based, and go from there to Acuff Rose or Cedarwood or Central. You'd play each other's songs and sit in on each other's recording sessions. Session hopping is what we called it. Don Bowman was West Coast starvation buddies with Harlan, and so was Bobby Bear. Harlan was everybody's friend. His childhood hero was Ernest Tubb, and he hadn't grown much since then. In fact, he thought if you're really into country songs, Ernest probably had more influence than Hank Williams. Depending on how close you lived to Texas, he just may have been right. He'd become Nashville's leading songwriter in the 60s and had a catalog of Harlan songs a mile long. Heartaches by the Number, I Fall to Pieces, Busted. I recorded over 70 of his songs myself, and even did a whole album called Waylon Sings Old Harlan. Harlan used to write without a guitar, just holding a legal pad. More than most, the strength of country music is its lyrics. Now, I'd fill up pages and pages of legal pads. I'd write about every notion that came to mind. When I ran out of paper, I'd scribble on anything I could find, napkins, matchbooks, dollar bills, if I had a dollar. Now, I didn't worry about how to sing the songs. Melodies form a marriage with words. They tell you where they want to go, and you can always change them. Harlan's first hit was Pick Me Up on Your Way Down. Now, when he sang it for you, his voice would rise on the first 3 words and fall on the last 4, and it wouldn't make sense otherwise. Your melody goes where the words take you. I depend on a lyric to give me the melody, and a good lyric will pull the melody out of you. You never knew who you'd see when you walked in the office in the 800 block of 17th Avenue. Roger, Willie, Mel Tillis, back when he was just getting started as a singer, they could be standing around. Hank Cochran, Conway Twitty, Lefty Frizzell, and even Tex Ritter. Sometimes we'd have unplanned parties. It was like Grand Central Station. You could reach up and touch the stars in Nashville then, or at least get ribbed by them. Tex Ritter used to call me Piss Ain't, of all things. Though some were a little aloof, most of the big names would make you feel welcome, like Carl Smith and Fair and Young. They kind of laughed at the star thing, and I liked that. We were swarming everywhere. Sleep was just a waste of time. It was so exciting, all that stuff happening around you, that you were afraid to take a nap, scared you'd miss something. Napoleon only slept 3 hours a night. Now, that was my big excuse for staying up. Cops would never bother you. They knew that you were taking pills and getting high. Bet they'd come by and just wave and say hi, because we didn't hurt nobody. The only people that we were really screwing up were ourselves, and we didn't seem to care. They didn't mess with us at all. Music Row was a neighborhood of houses along tree-lined streets that made them seem more friendly. You didn't have to have an appointment. You could stop by and see Owen Bradley and Chet Atkins and ask if they were busy. You were welcome everywhere if you were welcome anywhere, though if they wanted to ignore you, they sure could. I had brought my band, the Wailers, with me. I needed a band for road work, and they were my friends. In Tommy's case, he was my brother. He was playing bass for me, but side men were not welcome on Music Row.